Hi, my name is Paul Brighton, a.k.a. Seafood Boggy, and welcome to the second edition of The Way of Mindful, Conscious Mindfulness even. Little slip up, hey ho. But this episode is called The Way of a.k.a. Ellis. A very lovely, a very wonderful lady. Now, myself, I am the co-host, as I said, Paul Brighton, a.k.a. Seafood Boggy. Also with me, showing his thumbs up, is the very wonderful, the very gracious Ethan Collins, a.k.a. Q, as I call him. And, of course, we have the very lovely a.k.a. Ellis, who is a soul translator. And if we get chance, we get time, we are a little bit limited on time today, but her topics will be emotional alchemy and law of attraction as well. So, hello, a.k.a., and welcome. And quite simply, what is a soul translator?
Thank you, Paul. So, a soul translator is, at least for me, is I take the energy that I'm sensing from people, and on a heart level. So if they're in their heads a lot and they're not really connected to the desires of their heart, or having trouble navigating their emotional field, then I go in there and basically translate the emotions and the feelings on a deeper level that may be more subconscious or hard to understand, to make it easier for people to understand and integrate into their lives. Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Oh, yeah, my thumb in the way of the camera now. Cool. Okay. So it's, I mean, what would you describe yourself as in? I mean, would you say, you know, are you empathic? Are you what I'm trying to say is, are you feeling these emotions? Is it what somebody tells you how they're feeling and you're logically breaking it down? How are you doing it, if that makes sense? Oh, hello? Ethan, are you still there?
I'm here. I'm still here.
Okay, cool. a.k.a., have we lost a.k.a.?
a.k.a., come back. We miss you.
Okay.
Aww.
Well, this is fun. A slight technical hang-up we seem to be getting. I think we've lost a.k.a. Right. Okay. So. Okay. Right, Ethan, my dear sir, my dear friend.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'm
well,
here for you.
cool. While we figure out if the wonderful a.k.a. can come back, tell me about you. Tell what is it? Now I know, but if I didn't, what is it that you do, sir?
Well, for the most part, I generally try to make gear for people's personal hero's journeys. So the hero's journey that all souls are on is demonstrated best, I feel, by Joseph Campbell, and the hero's journey. The archetypical cycle that we all go through to grow and change and expand as beings, and it's the archetypical story because you see it in all forms of myth all over the world. Whether that's Native Americans, Aborigines, you name it, everybody's got approximately the same myth because it's following the same story, it's following the same journey that we all go through as humans, and it's just different personifications of that depending on cultural, and also you'll find a lot of anthropomorphic personification in there too, of like, how does thunder get made? Well, for Native Americans it was the thunderbird clapping its wings and making thunder, but for the Norse it was Thor riding his cart through the clouds and battling frost giants. So with those archetypes in mind, it's been my experience that people generally relate to an archetype, whether they're conscious of it or unconscious of it. You know, everyone has a favorite superhero. Superheroes are like the new gods of myth. You know, because you've got your different archetypes really well illustrated in that. I mean, just like the example of Avengers, you have like the whole archetypal spread. Just in Avengers, you know, you've got rage in Hulk, and you've got, you know, bravery and pureness in Captain America, and you've got like a great representation of the ego in Tony Stark, and anyway, so all that aside, moving back to the original thing so I make gear to help people grow and expand in their myth with the archetype, and I try to base it on vibrational theory of bringing people's vibration to a higher place through the gear that they have and through the clothes that they wear. You know, I mean, you know, you wear your wedding dress on your wedding day because it's the nicest thing you can wear, and because it stimulates a feeling in you, so it stimulates a vibrational tone in you. So with that in mind,
Hi.
you're back!
She's back!
Yay!
Oh my gosh, so sorry to interrupt you guys. Like,
That's cool. Welcome back.
No, I thought I was going to suddenly have to totally change the show to the way of Ethan Collins, but she's back. Awesome, cool, right?
Fantastic.
Just lost signal, or do you need to?
Yeah.
Will it help to turn off your camera, or?
I shifted my connection to my phone, which is a faster internet, and my internet here just like craps out sometimes, and I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, it's not a problem. The first show I did on the computer, but my camera is actually better on my iPhone than it is on my webcam camera. So this is why I've actually got. When my head's looking down, I'm looking down at the computer screen, because that's all going on, and I'm actually doing this on my iPhone, which is pretty fun. Trying not to pull the headphones too much, because the camera suddenly will jerk and look at the ceiling or the floor or I don't know, somewhere else. But anyway, so. This is fun. But this is the going with the flow. That's what it's all about. This
right.
Might end up in the making of.
What you were saying, what you were asking me, like about the emotions and stuff. What happens is in my sessions with people, I'll actually feel their emotions come up. And it's as if I'm animating it back to them. Like, so I take it into me, and I basically almost possess it, and then I make it real for them, so that they can feel it. So I basically help people feel it by being their emotions back to them. So
Cool. So when you say beam the emotions back, as in sort of like a Reiki master, you send the energy back, or you describe it back to them? Does that make sense?
Well, I translate it through my own filter. So I just get feelings of where they're at, predominantly in their energy and their emotions. And then it'll be as if like I'll pick up on like dialogue that they've been talking to themselves with, and then I'll just be like just rattling off a bunch of stuff like da-da-da-da, and then it brings them fully into it in a more conscious way, so that they can feel it and then integrate it, and so it becomes real.
Cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's I've never called this the soul translator, but I'm sort of empathic, so I sort of see and feel people's emotions. So I do understand that and get that. And funny enough, Q is the trollsmith. You are the wordsmith then. So you're retranslating what you feel and you see into a language that they can understand, which is cool. which is a very cool thing to be able to do. And any true teacher or sifu is meant to be able to do that. I take it that, say, I don't know, say that, you know, if I'm sort of talking, if I'm a mum that with a big beard, but if I'm a mum, you would obviously you would obviously talk to me, or you would use certain things, certain phrases, certain words that you already know as a mum, or you know, if she's sort of in the same area or situation you, different to say a business person. Does that make sense? Or would you,
so basically,
as in rephrasing the information?
So that's a good question, and basically I just trust however it comes out of my mouth, that it's going to be what they need. Like, because I don't ever really get caught up in technicalities so much, of like how I should be talking to different parts of people, which maybe I should. It might help, but usually if I get into that space of it, then I'm out of the intuitive space for them to channel it. So then I get mixed up.
No, go with the emotions. Definitely go. It's through the stuff I've done through martial arts, through life coaching. Yeah, in psychology, it's all about the analytical side. It's all about more the mental process as such. But then in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, it's partly about the psychological, you know, the science, the theory side of it, but it's also about the emotion. In Taoism, it's about the emotion. It's about all three. So it's feeling it, knowing how to, you know, if I was to say something and you didn't understand it, then knowing a way of rephrasing it. But I mean, your way works because, you know, it obviously works because you help people, so it's all good. Cool. And now I can't get out of my head me being a mum with a beard. But anyway, that's just my here or there. So, but anyway, so from Soul Translation, we originally, or when I asked you your topics, one of the topics that you mentioned was emotional alchemy. Now, how does that work into what you do?
So, with emotional alchemy, it's, at least how I interpret emotional alchemy would be to spin the emotions in a way to sort of transmute it, and not necessarily to get rid of it, but to transmute it into a form that's more empowering. So to view emotions in a more empowering way, like blame, for instance, or guilt, then it doesn't have to be this crippling thing that people hate. That I like to use different perspectives to where people will be like, oh yeah, well if that comes up again, then it's just telling me this, and that's fine. Like, and then they can feel empowered by that perspective. And so with how I feel people's emotions, and I'm translating it to them, and then using emotional alchemy to help them move forward in their lives after our sessions, or, I mean, it's sort of an ongoing process that never ends.
Oh yes, oh yes. So for just for anybody, the word alchemy itself is transforming or transmuting one thing into another. So obviously in the physical realm, the alchemy was transforming lead into gold, or one metal into a precious metal. But the word alchemy is a cool word to use in, like, say, emotional alchemy, transforming negative emotions into positive, and so on. Q, have you got any questions, anything you'd like to ask or add? Or have you frozen as well? Oh, he's there.
I'm here. I'm still here. Of course. I'm quietly waiting my turn. As far as stuff like guilt and shame and things like that, the thing that I would like to add to that is if you ever want to read a fabulous book, there's also an audio series called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall M. Rosenberg. He has a very fantastic system for relating to people and these sort of things. And guilt and shame come up when we're telling ourselves a story about something that we've done, which ultimately, on a certain level, boils down to ego and associating with things and associating with right and wrong. But more, it's people who are not properly taught to recognize their needs, and therefore, when they make strategies to get their needs met, they're not really recognizing their needs. So, like, shame is a tragic expression of an unmet need. I mean, that's been proven. I mean, in America recently, in Orlando, there was someone who had such a tragic expression of an unmet need and felt so incapable of handling this unmet need and was so out of touch with it that, because they come from a domination culture where we're taught to blame everyone and for everything, that he couldn't accept that feeling in himself, and it caused him to lash out. So that was what I wanted to add about needs and unmet needs and recognizing our unmet needs, because really that's the core of most problems that we have as humans, is we're not trained to recognize our needs besides when we're hungry or we need to go to the bathroom or something like that. But we have all of these emotional needs that we're not taught to recognize, and they end up coming out in these really haywire, heinous ways.
Oh, yeah.
Suicidal expressions of an unmet need is how Dr. Rosenberg puts it in his work, and he's absolutely fantastic. I recommend it to everyone. It'll change your life, change the way you think, change the way you relate to yourself. Oh wait, I have something for this. Ah!
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, the recent events that happened, because that it's really it's unleashed so much subconscious, especially in the community that was targeted. It's released a lot of suppressed rage, and for everyone, and so this sort of, and the rage is just the fear underneath, the fear of not feeling accepted, of not feeling good enough. And so it's like but the rage is like motivation for change and to really come forward. And I see it as really have been a catalyst for people to come forward and share more of themselves, because a lot of that community, the LGBT community, has hidden. And we need their voices, so the rage is good, if people can really understand that they also need space held, the rage is it's a powerful force, So I like what you said about that.
Thank you. I absolutely agree that rage is a powerful force. Rage is there rage is a very healthy thing. It's a powerful force to get you out of a really nasty situation. Like you can get so empowered that you're capable of doing things that your body normally isn't capable of doing, because you have so much power that's there. The problem really comes with well, actually, really you can make the distinction between anger and rage. Rage is the continuation. So ultimately, I think Deepak Chopra says that an emotion, the chemical reaction of an emotion lasts around a minute or less, I'm pretty sure. I think it's like the average life is like 45 seconds. So anything after 45 seconds that you feel an emotion, you have to tell yourself a story to continue to feel that emotion. So I think the problem a lot of times comes in when you have that spark of anger that's there to get you out of that really nasty situation, but then we hold on to that spark. And we keep that spark, and we feed that spark with stories about how the other person did something that we don't like, or the other person did something wrong, or the other person made us feel a certain way. Because you can't make anybody feel anyway. It's a decision that you're making. So, what are you going to say, Boggy?
Huh?
Oh, I thought Boggy
I was going to say, yeah, I was just going to, oh, sorry, Mum beard again. No worries. What I was going to say was, funny enough, I keep saying it because it makes you laugh, Kira, to be honest. But anyway, what I was going to say, what Ethan said was the fact that, well, quite cool on about, you know, yourself has to tell you a story. Now, in the Eastern approach to that, that is what the East calls monkey mind. And there's a very cool, what Ethan Q, the Trollsmith himself, he's actually creating hoodies for me, Tai Chi hoodie, and inside the hoodie, and on the outside as well, I think, there is going to be a monkey with a little ring. It's called Monkey Magic. A monkey in one ear, in one side of the hoodie, and Buddha on the other, because the whole cartoons and the whole stories where you see the devil on one shoulder, and the angel on the other, is this whole thing about intuition and ego. Now, the ego, but the thing that most people don't get is intuition and ego are both teachers. They're both actually trying to help you, you know. But people try to, especially certain people in meditational circles, will say, you must destroy your ego. You must rid yourself of ego. Destroying your ego is like cutting off your hand. You know, it's going to hurt, and it's not a good thing. And actually, you can't, because if like you could see the face of the ego, and certain cartoons have done it. The face of the ego, or the face of the devil, and the face of the angel are both you. You know, you're all the same thing. So therefore, it's a shadow. It's a version of you telling you stuff. The ego needs the chaos. It needs that to keep fueling. Hence why you tell yourself the story and you wind yourself up. You know, it's like, you know, prodding somebody. You prod somebody enough, they'll snap and they'll hit you with something probably.
That holds true for other animals too. You have to for cricket fighting. I know a guy who was into cricket fighting. You have to piss off the cricket. You gotta poke it with a stick. You gotta mess with it. It'll walk away. Wants to be left alone, but you keep poking it, and then you get them both so pissed off that they're ready to kill. And you put them in, and they fight. So
yeah, and yeah, we do it in life all the time, don't we? Well, we don't really, you know, the whole thing of like political debates is they wind each other up to get that rage, you know, is to activate the rage. And in essence, we also call it in business is martial arts, you psyching yourself up, building yourself up, which if it's for a positive thing, or you can make it become a positive thing, but when it's positive, that's cool. But I think most people don't realise what's going on. So something like yourself, Kira, where you're actually going, well, actually, this is this, this, and this. But also, you know, it's knowing, and I'm sure you do, is that he's being able to help them actually see it themselves. That's the key. Because if they can actually realise what's triggering it and what's setting it off, they can actually then learn from it. And it's not about ignoring it, it's about channeling it into a different way. The Chinese call all negative motion, or if you parp or burp, or, you know, if you make a noise, in Chinese it's called cha. So it's the release of negative energy. But the key is, firstly, you learn to breathe in the chi and breathe out the cha. But eventually your key is actually to learn to convert cha into chi. So, pardon my French, you get the shit and you turn it into manure, and then lovely flowers will grow. And,
exactly.
And I think that, you know, what I've seen on your videos, I've watched your videos, and I love your way, and I love just love your whole persona and the way you talk, and, you know, this whole thing of you know, don't be afraid to use words. Don't be afraid to swear, if, you know, not to swear for swearing's sake, but to use it if it needs it. Because, you know, normal people, you know, the people you can help most will be people who might need to throw. There's a friend of mine who, again, pardon my French, there's a friend of mine who says, sometimes you need to throw in a fuck every now and again. because it's to prove the point. It's to go, "Ah!" But you translate that into a word, or you translate it into sweat. But the whole point is pay attention, wake up, listen to what I'm saying. Whether you do it to yourself or you do it to others. But if you can do that more in a fun way rather than an aggressive way, so it's like, it's that thing with people who, it's like things are not going right. Oh, bloody hell, Paul, what are you doing? Bloody hell, Boggy, you're an idiot. And it's the way you talk to yourself. You have to be careful of, or you have to be mindful of, because, that's as important. But, hey, what do I know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, by all means, no.
Thank you. Ultimately, I think that it comes down to if we don't listen, everything is a little poke from the universe. If you don't feel the poke, then it's going to poke harder. And if you don't feel that poke, then it's going to poke harder. And the next thing you know, you're going to get poked with cancer or diabetes or something like that, because it's going to keep poking you until you listen. And if it kills you to listen, then that's just what's going to happen. Because that's how Mother Nature works. I think Mother Nature is fantastic for her brutalness. I feel like, as people in our culture, especially in our subculture, the alternative subculture, we really ignore violence and lack of sympathy and lack of compassion that's in nature. But there's a purity to that nobody really, well, I'm sure there's people, I don't hear it get addressed very often. I mean, it's the same as like, a lot of people give me funny looks when I talk about this, but it's the same as like how I don't really feel like it's being addressed. Yes, women have had horrible, horrible things done to them for thousands of years. Horrible, perpetrated by men. Yes. And what I want to look at as a man, and I was raised by a single mother, and I have amazing respect for women. Women are far better at life than men are, in my opinion. You handle stress a lot better. You can have children. We can't have children. We're too much of a wimp to have children. So, that being said, how fucked up we have to be men to perpetrate this to women, to train the next generation to perpetrate this to women, and there's this other side that people aren't looking at, and I definitely feel that way with violence, and there's no compassion. Mother Nature is not compassionate. And while we are here to, merge the heavens and the earth together and stand slightly apart from that, I think there's still a lot of wisdom that's being ignored, because we're so afraid of it. Because it's been taken way too far. Violence, lack of compassion, it's been taken way too far.
Yeah.
But as a result, now we're afraid of that hardness. We're afraid of that necessary violence, because there's a certain amount of necessary violence, whether that's physical or emotional violence, depending on the connotation, to be able to survive in the world that will happen. But as we're bred to seek it out more now, so as a result, we see that and we want to push it away. We go, oh, this is what we're bred. We're bred for war. We're bred to seek out violence. We don't want this. And as a result, we end up rejecting all of it, and we miss the little golden nugget in there of the wisdom of it.
And that's why I do the work that I do, because I want to bring the teachings of nature to people as well, and I use my experience to teach. I think like I've finished like maybe a couple of books in my lifetime, because it puts me to sleep reading, and so I just use the nature itself has been such a teacher, and then all of my triggers, going into those and being like, what is this telling me? What is this? And then because I love the analogy of a storm wouldn't stop in the middle of itself and be like, oh, I think I'm going to hurt some people. I think I need to stop. And I love it because I'm like, we are fucking nature. We are when have we separated ourselves from the outdoors? When has that happened?
We're all on that quest to prove how much we're not a caveman. I mean, look at the giant ruffled collars, the musketeers, and we have so much garden space that we can grow things besides vegetables in them. Look how much not cavemen we are. It's all just been a giant quest for that. We're not cavemen. We're not animals. Look at us go.
No. No, I wear a bow and a tie, and I am prestigious.
Yeah, a bow tie. That's real practical right there.
Suffocating. And it's even throat chakra shit. People who wear ties, throat chakra.
Oh yeah, totally. That's like people who stand around with their arms.
But this is the point, isn't it? Is that society has gone so much into science and so much into the mechanics, the physicalness of life. Now, don't get, I annoy people. Funny enough, I annoy people because of the fact that I'm very spiritual and I love spirituality. But if they say, "Oh, I don't believe in that," I'll go, "Bosh, science, boom, quantum physics, boom, psychology, boom." Because for me, it's all about balance. It's all about balancing the science and the spirituality. But for me, in Taoism, there's three ones. It's not just the yin and the yang. There's a little bit in the middle. The symbol has something in the middle which we don't see on normal pictures. And that bit in the middle is the emotions. So it's the blend between mind, body, and spirit. So the thing is, like we were saying, like people have got their shirts all tied up to the top, closing off their chakras. Arms crossed, as Q says, closing off their heart. Or what classic for in body language is actually when people doing this is a good thing in the essence of when I'm listening, I'm shutting up. That's the point. But it's this thing of now in India they get quite upset with people who, I don't know about in America, but in England it used to be a thing of tapping children on the head. Good boy, a bit like a dog.
So it's suppressing, though.
Suppressing the crown chakra. She's closing things down. So the whole point of is that these actions, whether people realise consciously what these things do, that in the subconscious these things mean certain things. Hence why you have body language. Is that people know that these things mean certain things. Because we're restricting what we can do and we restrict our movements. I'm a waver. I love waving my hands about. I'm very verbal because there's so much information I'm trying to fire through. But a lot of people are very stiff upper lip, very tense. And when that happens, that information comes out in other ways. It tries to seep out in other ways. Or you repress yourself more and more and more and more, and you end up, pardon my French, a bloody mess. So it's about like yourself, like me, like Michelle and Fenty, one of the other co-hosts. It's about letting people realise you can open up. As I said earlier, pardon my French, throw in a few fucks every now and again if you need to. Let the anger out. But it's being like the old kettles, with the old whistling kettles. The whistle, it lets out the steam, then it cools down, and it doesn't keep going. Is the one thing people got to learn, is this thing of, yes, if you need to explode. But once you explode, you can't. A child has a temper tantrum.
Some people have bigger kettles than others.
Yeah, so. But it's this whole point of this is where not knowing about the ego is, don't let yourself mull over it, don't let yourself cook on it, but react. Don't be suppressed, but don't be 100% all the time. Don't let it dwell. It's finding that balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will tell you, I am so stubborn. Like, I have dwelled in so much shit, I'll slowly emerge, and I think, from spaces of being stubborn and dwelling, like I dwell in it, but I also recently discovered that instead of saying stuck, I like to say study. I'm studying something that might last a lifetime. So if I'm depressed my whole life, then maybe in the next lifetime I'm going to be like this badass teacher of it or something. You know, it's like the leverage, the dwelling is the leverage for passion and teaching and really like helping people and going into empathy. I mean, it's, I spent probably like I'm just now barely coming out of a depression that I was in like 2013 before my daughter was born. The pregnancy launched me into this space that I had been avoiding. And like, you know, I've noticed that even through my work with animals, that not forcing anyone to be anywhere that they aren't it gives people permission to move. Like then they want to move, because if they feel like, oh, you need to come with me now because we need to go over here now, then the person's going to dig their heels in even deeper and be like, no, I'm fucking staying here because I feel powerful more if I just say no to you. So it's the saying no to our inner head are the voices that are saying, get out of there, get out, no, it's wrong, it's bad, it's wrong, you know. And so if we train the voice to be like, oh, it's cool, just stay where you're at. Oh, you don't want to eat broccoli? Okay, don't. And like it immediately lifts, because I've seen it in my daughter whenever I'm like, okay, you don't have to, and she's like, so we're like the same. We're little kids that need to be treated as like, okay, you have a choice. You can have choices. Versus us having this Nazi brain that says, you have no choice. You must obey me.
That's the domination culture is coming up in our subconscious. Because what happens when you tell your daughter you don't have to eat broccoli is it allows her to have the freedom to feel safe and get her needs met and feel like her emotions are more important than the fucking broccoli. Right? I mean, like that's what it comes down to is our consciousness. I had up until about a week or so ago, actually, I split up with my partner of 8 years, and I had an 11-year-old had an 11-year-old stepdaughter who I raised since she was 3, and I implemented a lot of these ideas with her, and it's very clear to see when ultimately it becomes more about you're interested in her, you're not interested in what you want her to do, is what it comes down to. So the idea ultimately, because we know that you want her to eat her broccoli because it's good for her and all the good things that broccoli has for you, and that's what love is. And that's how you're trying to express your love to her. She's just not perceiving it that way. So when you bring it back to her that she is the number one priority and that you love her and you're just trying to enrich her life, it makes it a lot easier. Like when we used to have to punish my stepdaughter because she would get in trouble, we would explain, we are punishing you for not looking for cars because we don't want you to get run over. We don't want to be punishing you, but we're using this to train you to do this. And her attitude about it was completely different after we would explain things to her, because there's this thing, and it's a really horrible thing about society is there's been a lot of tests done, and it's consistently proven that if you take a group of people and you tell them that someone has taken something that belonged to them, or they lent them something and they want it back, and they tell one group that it's a child, and they tell the other group that it's their neighbor, the results are always consistent, that the child gets spoken to with less respect and less dignity than the adult. Always in our culture. Always. Mm-hmm. We don't respect children. We pat them on the top of the head. My grandma was one of those grandmas that would pinch my cheek. I did it back to her when I was about 8. She never did it again. I did it hard. So ultimately, that's what it boils down to, is when people feel like they are more important than what you're asking them to do, they will be happy to do it for you. Because then they're coming from the place of enriching life. You know, like we want to enrich each other's lives. That's why we're here, is to enrich each other's lives, to make each other's lives better. So when people feel that you're coming from a place of that energy, in comparison to, I just want you to get over here, instead of being, well, you're sad and you're hurt, so let's let that. And actually, I wanted to touch on this earlier too, when you were talking about this. It's the incubation. You know, as Western society, we live in spring and summer, spring and summer, spring and summer. You run out of spring and summer, you drink some fucking coffee. You do whatever you have to. You take a pill to stay in spring and summer. We're missing the fall and the winter. We're missing the incubation. We're missing the holding in the womb.
Right.
For me, being someone who creates things, I'm giving birth to projects. I have an idea, so there's inception. Then I hold on to the idea in the dark womb of the yin of my consciousness, and then it grows and it expands. And if I let the idea out too soon, it's not going to do well. But the other thing is, the more advanced the creature, the longer the incubation period. I mean, flies take what?
Oh, yeah.
Dogs take 60 days. Humans take 9 months. So what does that say when it's your soul that's growing? When it's your soul that's like incubating in that dark place, it could take lifetimes of dirt and mud and shit to get it to grow. But then you just apply that throughout the entire thing of, your depression is you growing and changing into that. Like, I've been through that with countless things in my life. I was in really bad shape. I was a fat teenager. I couldn't do it. As a result of that, I've been exercising consistently for 11 years because I realized how much that really sucks. It takes realizing how much something really sucks to really be able to understand it. Because otherwise, you're just repeating back to someone, yeah, I understand, instead of being able to demonstrate that you understand. Because when you can demonstrate that you understand, that's when real compassion is present. That's when real growth happens. Instead of saying, yeah, oh, I'm really sad because this and this and this just happened. Yeah, I understand. What do you understand? You're not telling the other person anything. You're not explaining back to them their pain. You're not mirroring their pain, which is ultimately what you're doing on a bigger level, is you're mirroring their experience back to them, but since it's outside of themselves, they can ultimately see it. And I really feel...
Oh.
Oh, no.
It was his turn. Anyway, the Kira and Boggy show. Let's forget Q. So,
well, it's probably good timing anyway that it froze because it's 2:53. So, just perfect timing.
Okay, cool. Well, it was very lovely to meet you. We'll speak to you on the show, Kira. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again and get some feedback and maybe explore a few other topics. What do you think?
Yeah, I would love that. I love topics, so it's fun. And
cool.
We can maybe even, I don't know if it's like always on a weekday or not, but I'm sure that I'll be letting go of something I've been doing that will free up more time.
Cool. Well, I mean, there's always the opportunity. I mean, because obviously you do your live feed show and I do mine. Maybe we could do a Google one at some point, you and I in the future, and sort of bounce off each other again in another way. I throw that idea out there into space. So
yeah, let it be so. Let us choose that it manifests soon.
Cool. Okay. Well, Ethan's back. Just in time to say goodbye to Kira.
Yeah. Bye. See y'all later.
Right, take care. It was nice to meet you. Bye for now.
You too.
And she's gone. Right. So that was really cool, and it was really good to have her on the show. Well, in theory, we've still got another hour to go. So, I mean, what we could do is, what we could do is actually split it up. And how long have you got?
I got time. I got all day for you, buddy.
All day, cool, buddy. Well, what we could do then, if you're okay with it, is because this is just recording anyway. We could actually pre-record your one. You okay with that?
That'll be fun.
Cool. Okay. Right. So what I'll do, because surprise, surprise, things didn't work out as I was hoping, and we didn't have too many on this one. But what I can do, I can edit it, then send it out again, and put all the links out for people to watch it, and do it that way. So that will become a recorded version. This one I'll do the same with this one, in the essence of we can record it and then I'll edit it and have this as your own show. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so what we'll do then is we'll yeah, nobody else is here. So, well, there's only one person, that's me, I think. So what we'll do is we'll sort of start again, and I'll introduce myself and then introduce you, and we'll go from there. Is that all good?
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Okay. Right. So actually, let me just 1 second. Let me just get some water.
Sure.
Okay, and I'm back. Is that a unicorn bunny?
It's Bunny Goyle, the fearsome, the one and only.
Right. Okay. So, Ethan, the Trollsmith. Well, Troll. What do you call yourself?
Troll. Well, I call myself me, but.
Me.
Generally, I go by Ethan Collins or the Trollsmith or the MythGear's Trollsmith or Hey You,
Mythica.
Tattoos.
Mythica Trollsmith.
MythGear.
Okay. MythGear.
Yeah, MythGear.
MythGear. Trollsmith. And what subjects do we want to explore? 3, not 500.
What subject do you want to talk about? What do you think?
Oh, blimey. Okay.
I'm down for a fun conversation about just about anything. You can talk about archetypes. I've got fun stuff to say about archetypes.
I'll tell you what. We'll call it Go with the Flow one then.
Okay.
Because I think you and I can do that. We'll just go with the flow. Because obviously I want to. Because it would actually it'd be good to sort of explore the whole, well, you know, your stuff, but the whole point of like for me, my stuff is my stuff the most complicated you're doing?
I don't know. It's the most complicated stuff that I'm doing for someone that's not. It's the most complicated as in placement and intricacy of projects. As far as like the most visually complicated, I'm working on some gear for my friend Pockets the Wizard, who's kind of my charity case almost, who I like to take care of. He's like my little brother. And I made him a hat with 22 wizard pockets in it.
I remember you telling me about that.
And so I'm going to make him a jacket to match. And I'm guessing that it's probably going to have, I'm going to try for at least 100 pockets. So,
all right.
So
okay.
that'll be pretty intricate. But I don't know though, because when I make your boggy robe, I'm going to make it the same way.
Cool.
Approximately, just without the pockets. So you're the biggest. At this point, I have the biggest amount of stuff planned for you. I've got enough stuff to keep me going on you for years.
I don't know. Yeah, I've got enough stuff planned for you for bloody years. Don't worry. Well, anyway, okay. Right.
Okay.
Finish the mouthful. A little bit of water. All right, so we'll just call it a going, and the topic's going with the flow then. So
okay.
We'll see where it goes. Okay, cool. Right. So I'll re-edit this. So where's the camera?
Okay.
So that will tell me that I've got to pause it. So okay. So starting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi. My name is Paul Brighton, a.k.a. Seafood Boggy, and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a show on mind, body and spirit, finding your own personal balance and way. So today, as a guest, he's also a co-host of the show, but for today he's going to be a guest of mine. So today is Ethan Collins, a.k.a. the Trollsmith, a.k.a. the MythGear Trollsmith, basically just the Trollsmith, and our subject, our topics will be, well, let's see what comes up, really. Let's go with the flow. So, Ethan, my friend, good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever it is. Evening for me.
It's barely afternoon for me. I think it's a pretty late evening for you, right?
Yes, it is the evening indeed.
Oh, man.
So, well, let's start from the beginning. It's always a good place. Well, not maybe the beginning, but so Ethan. Yeah, so Ethan, what do you do? What is it that what is a trollsmith?
In this case, the connotation of a trollsmith. Troll is getting a new nasty identity thanks to the internet and keyboard warriors across the world. But for me, the definition of a trollsmith would be just someone who's a creator. The archetype of the creator, whether that manifests as, let's see, for certain cultures it was Cyclops, dwarves. Those are all creator spirits. So if you want to look at it on an archetypal level, mine is the archetype of the creator, which is one of there's the creator, the destroyer, the pantheon of gods that basically you see in any premise. I'm not saying I'm a god. So I create things. I make things. For a long time, when I first started, when I was a little kid, I was making things because I wanted toys that I couldn't have, and I was poor. As I grew up, it became more about using it as a way to distinguish myself and feed my sense of self, ultimately feeding ego, which was a very powerful growing experience for empowerment with people and beings around me, as a form of helping people to have armor, really, to wear against the world. Because when you have your favorite shirt on, you feel better. You've got your favorite pair of shoes, you feel better. No matter what your relationship is to it or what the object is, whether it's you feel better about it and it's your favorite because that's what everybody else says, because it's the fashionable thing to wear, or whether you have it because it has an emotional memory to it, you got it from a friend, a loved one, or it matches. What I generally try to do is I try to make things that match people's perception of the hero self that they have, whether that hero self is a wizard, a warrior, whatever the case may be, a monk, a wandering mage, a paladin, trying to match people's clothes to fit that, so therefore they have that sense that they can carry with them all the time. And then with that in mind, I also try to incorporate a lot of things like astrology, numerology, Chinese medicine, look at people's deficiencies that I can easily see in them, whether that's running hot all the time, running cold all the time, make comments on people's souls and reflect back to them themselves in a garment, which then gives them an amazing sense of self, an amazing sense of empowerment, which then they can fake it till you make it. You learn how to feel empowered with these clothes, and then eventually you learn, hopefully, ideally, this is not necessarily how it works, but then eventually you learn how to feel the amount of empowerment when you're wearing anything, because you've learned how to feel empowered. You've learned how to take that energy of that feeling tone that you have inside your body and hold on to it. So ultimately, that's basically what I do.
Well, yeah, and you're good. You're good at it. I mean, well, actually, 1 second. Stand by. I mean, we're talking about them. Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh,
there goes the camera.
Come back to us!
Oh, Marky, come back, Marky.
Yay!
Right. Okay, so a slight technical difficulty there, but we are back. So
Back now.
we are back now. But yes, I mean, this is the saber sword, the light sword that you created for me.
Absolutely.
A plush toy. But the whole idea, I mean, what? Oh, and there it goes again. This is what happens when your iPhone is your main camera to do your show, which we'll have to. We may have to. Oh, now it's all gone pear-shaped. It's all gone pear-shaped. Now I can't get it to stay. There, no, stay. Stay.
Stay. Stay. Stay.
Cool. Right.
Alright.
So, but the whole point is, I mean, what originally I'm trying to remember how. Yeah, I mean, I knew that you were creating the Warhammers, the plush toys, and the whole mythos behind them, and it was, I mean, like for me, I mean, I love these are awesome, but my real passion, or for me, will be the actual clothes. And I mean, you're actually going to create a whole. Well, as we were saying off air, is that basically I think you've got something like 10 years plus of clothes make for me.
Yeah.
But the point is like, yeah, is that you create. For me, that you create the myth, you create the symbol. See, I'm very much about the power words, about making things fun, making things enjoyable, but knowing that there's everything is mind, body, spirit. Everything, there's a physical side to it, there's an emotional side, and there's a spiritual side. So the whole point of one thing I was taught in the East is that everything contains the three ones, contains this mind, body, spirit. Now what that means is that your house was built with mind, body, spirit. So people talk. Now it's interesting, in China they talk a lot about the bad energy in the house because of the way when it was built, or somebody had not necessarily somebody dying in there, but the fact that somebody had an unhappy life in the house that has unhappy energy, that has unhappy jing, emotional content, emotional vitality.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of it is that whatever your life has been, the fact that you could create clothes that will be positive, that will generate energy in a positive way, is not only a good thing, but also it's a good move forward. It's a good way of helping people realize things aren't just physical. There is magic in everything. There is magic in and the whole thing of I call you, your nickname for me is Q, because of obviously James Bond, the inventor. But the whole point is that you love what you do. For me, it's totally obvious. It's in your actions, in your movements, in the stuff I have here. I mean, I've got a hammer with Tai Chi symbol on it, for goodness sake. I mean, that's blooming awesome. Do both sides. I mean, come on. And you did it personally. It was created. I gave you the idea, and you went bosh, 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 and you've created it. The lightsabers, the light swords is the same thing. Is that I inquired, can you create it, and you did. I do that. What you do, this way of making stuff is what I'm not sure people get it, but for me, you're a healer. For me, you are generating. In ancient China, there's I'm technically classed as a barefoot doctor. There's the barefoot doctor is a name. It's a metaphor in China. The barefoot part is about the openness, that they are open, they are raw, a little bit like I don't know about in the States. If you've heard of, there's a guy in England, Jamie Oliver, he's still known as the Naked Chef, and the reason he was called the Naked Chef is because he uses raw ingredients. He won't, fluff about. He used to do a series where he was in a little camper van, a VW camper van, going from place to place with a little stove, and he would get local ingredients and bomb, 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 bang, And to me, that always reminds me, in a weird way, that always reminds me of Kane Kung Fu. It's the whole going from place to place.
Yeah.
Just being open, being innocent. The barefoot thing is this innocence. But the whole thing with a barefoot doctor is that a barefoot doctor actually doesn't just do healing. They teach you to heal yourself. That's the fundamental thing, and I find that with your clothes are not just about empowering somebody or healing them, but it's about helping them help themselves. Because there's so many stories. I mean, going back very quickly to the ones you're creating for me, the Tai Chi hoodie. This is a Kung Fu or Tai Chi top, and you're making the hoodie. But the fact we're going to add a monkey mind on one side and actually monkey mind on one side and Buddha thought on the other. So there's going to be an outline of Buddha, and there's going to be a monkey on the other side, and then there's going to be the meridians in there. And of course, I've asked you to do all this stuff, and you're very, very wonderfully doing it. You're creating it. And the whole point is that all these metaphors mean something to me. But not only do they mean something to me, when people say, "Oh, what's that?" I've got the story behind it. I know what it's behind, and the fact that the person who created it has put so much love and passion into it, and the fact that like when you were saying about when you were making the hammers, I remember you saying, it was actually Baz Chilia's hammer. It was the Swimming Sky Dragon, and we actually played the song. We played a tune to the song. So you said, I'm going to use this tune. So while I'm making this music is going to be being played over and over again to empower the hammer.
I listened to that song for 3 hours straight. Everyone in my house put a band on listening to it after that.
but the point is that's very shamanic. That is magic. Like people would see it as people who are just of the physical realm. You've played a song over and over and over again, but it's the vibration behind it. It's the energy behind. It's the energy behind it.
Totally.
It's what you've created by doing that. It's very much like with my healing. When I do Shundao healing, people just see me move my hands about, but those gestures, those movements are symbols in essence. Is that a qigong, an energy exercise for me, is a symbol. It's a physical vibratory symbol, and behind that physical side there is an emotional feeling behind it, and then there's a thought or intent, which would be yi, but the yi is also shen, the spirit behind it. So applying all three, you make this living symbol, this energy, and you're doing that with the clothes. You're imbuing them with these abilities, these powers, this magic, and I can't blooming wait, to be honest. It is, I will, and I am, but yeah, so this is what I love about you. This is why, funny enough, in manifestations, it's what I manifested. For years, I've been looking for somebody who can make exactly what I want, and I found people who do bits, but it's finding somebody who has the balance of is a very good artist, and the fact that they believe, they understand energy and vibration, and they also do qigong, and that's why I love you. You're awesome, and you do, and you will, and you are creating awesome things, and I think I think that's great. I think I'm definitely looking forward to it, because the whole point of when I get them, I know they're even more special for me because I know you, and I know how much effort you've put into them, what's gone behind it, the magic that's behind it. So not only are they looking cool, but they're cool because how they were made, and the time and effort that we've talked about creating them, and that's far better than just a plain shirt, or just even a shirt with a print on it. It's it can have whatever. That's really cool. But when you've actually know the person's infused energy into it, has actually put stuff into place. Hence why, what people, when they have healing with me, they always say, Boggy, your stuff's weird because I can feel it working afterwards. And it says, because it's a program. It's, Skull Babylon sort of mentions this, is that things are like programs, dreams, but energy, thoughts, intentions are like, quite simply, like energy programs. You can set things in place.
Yeah,
and I think this is what people do, but they don't realise it. When people are hooked on negative things, or they're going down, there's the whole thing in NLP, you are what you think. So if you believe you are unlucky, you will be unlucky, and because you've created a negative program. And the thing I love about your stuff is your stuffs are positive affirmations. They are quite simply a way of, you could be having a bad day, but at the moment I just grab the hammer, but it's like, I know when I will have your clothes, it'll be as the monkey, as the rabbit comes up, the rabbit with the horn.
Bunny Goyle. The fearsome Bunny Goyle to wreck your day.
But this is the point. You create things. You manifest the dreams and the ambitions of others. Or this is what you're in the process of doing. With the whole MythGear. And that's the point. It's awesome stuff. You're a Troll Smith, and I love that name. I love that terminology because of what it is that what you created and what you do. And I hope we can push it forwards and get you lots and lots of people to sort of go with the idea and want your stuff, because I really do love it. I really do think it's cool.
Well, thank you. A big thing of my stuff is like, the lies that we're raised with, and the lies that we're raised with in our consciousness, and that idea of like, the fat nerdy kid with a sword who thinks he's a badass, who's never had a martial arts lesson in his life, who's just living the lie in his head. I kind of fit that archetype when I was a lot younger, and I realized, life is realistic. It doesn't give a shit. No, you're not actually going to be good unless you practice. No, you're not actually going to be strong unless you work out. And so the level of, I'm really interested in the level of reality of that, like, like I had this friend years ago, and I still remember to this day, he was this guy who was really into the goth scene, and he wore all black, but he had white socks. And he was so hard, he was trying to be so hardcore, but he always had white socks, and it always struck to me like, you wear all black, why don't you have black socks? It seemed like there's the lack of penetration of the facade of the reality of the thing, like, sure, you're all cool and you wear all black, but then you get home and you put on plaid pajamas and you put on your fluffy slippers, and that's gone. That's was gone. So that desire to, and ultimately it ties into ego. The ego thing of trying to make something solid and trying to be able to associate yourself with something solid, so that way your ego could say, I am this, put it on a box, put it in a shelf, and just go from there. But ultimately, and this is something that I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet from, I think he was around in like the 20s and the 30s, real old stuff. In his book, I think it's Soul Purpose, he talks about, all right, now write down all your positive traits about yourself and all your bad traits. Now flip the two of them around and reread them. So all your positive traits are now all your bad traits, and all your bad traits are now all your positive traits. And that kind of sums up my relationship to it, of like, you can take this. I learned from my ego trying to get me to be this solid thing all the time, a solid, consistent image. And also, we're really trained by the lie of Hollywood. I don't think that people really think about the lie of Hollywood. A hero has 10 copies of the same costume. That's why their clothes are that's why they're always wearing the same clothes, because they have 10 copies of the same clothes. So unless you're Einstein did this. Einstein had 10 copies of the same suit because he didn't want to take the time to pick out a suit every morning.
Yeah, didn't want to waste the energy.
Yeah, he didn't want to waste the energy, exactly. But for the rest of us, like, we're trained by movies and society to have this concrete image of ourselves and to have it be unyielding. And like, it will be this way. You will wear these shoes that are part of your outfit, they're part of your costume. You will wear, no matter if they're the stupidest shoes for the situation, like the guy wearing tall boots in the middle of the desert. Have you ever worn tall boots in the summer? It's a suicidal act. Boots that go up to, sure, they look great, but damn, you sweat a lot. You don't need to. And it's just that sense of self. So, my ego had built this elaborate sense of self, this elaborate persona for myself. And ultimately what that allowed me to do is then realize it and then step away from it. And it's still there. It's still a tool to be used, but when you no longer identify with that persona of self, it frees you from that concept of having to be a solid object. So the path to consciousness expansion can come through the clothes that you wear. Is one of the big lessons that I took away from that. And how profound that is, that a piece of fabric can change your consciousness to the point where it helps you to recognize your ego and to relate to your ego and to relate to your sense of self, and to cause forced consciousness expansion. I used to do a lot of outdoor art projects, and I liked to call them consciousness expanding booby traps, where you're just walking along and all of a sudden you come across something and you're like, what? And it causes that stumble in the ego. The ego kind of misses a step, and people land in the present moment because they don't know how to relate to the object they're looking at, because they can't automatically sort it into some category and slough it away like, oh, it's a tree, done. Oh, it's a rock, done. Because it doesn't quite fit into that preconceived notion of how the world works, and it causes this stumble in the ego. Oh God, I don't know how to relate to this. The program can't keep running. So totally. Oh, and I wanted to also say, when you were talking about having negative energy in houses and negative experiences and stuff, according to the laws of holographic theory, and holographic theory being, forgot the fellow who really got into it. He was one of Einstein's buddies, really pioneered holographic theory. Since we're all just in a holographic universe, there's a great book called Holographic Universe, highly recommended by a guy named Michael Talbot. And he's one of those great people that's taken science and magic and pointed out that science is just the explanation of magic. Because for a long time, for me when I was young, science murdered magic, killed it dead. In my late teens, it was dead. Like magic, science had taken it out and slaughtered it. But then slowly I realized, and I began to reestablish my relationship with science, of science being how magic works, and that's all.
Yeah.
It's not, science and magic aren't separate. Science is just how magic works.
Yeah. Magic. Science is learning the trick. That becomes magic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at one of my favorite examples is the cargo cults in the Philippines from World War II, where this is also a great explanation for, I think it's called basically pointing out how extraterrestrials would be considered gods. So these cargo cults, the U.S. military would drop cargo on these little islands in the Philippines, and these were primitive cultures who didn't know what a plane was. So the gods were dropping things from the sky for them. After war was over, they built wicker planes to try and appease the gods, to get the gods to come back and drop more cargo, which is, just perfectly proves the point of what is magic, what is technology, what is any of that. You can You can look at a description of someone smoking a cigarette as they're smoking a cigarette, or you can look at it as, you know, someone is breathing, taking a, pulling off this fiery little stick and then breathing smoke out.
Breathing out smoke.
You know, like it's all just a perception.
Well, I love different shows, different sci-fi shows, and one of the ones I like is Babylon 5.
Oh yeah.
Babylon 5, they actually had the mage, and the mage were basically, is that people saw them as wizards and warlocks, but they said basically it was just science. Science at such a high level that it looked like magic. And that was the point. I mean, I know. I think it was. This is where my memory's going to let me down, but I know around about 15 years ago, they actually sort of confirmed, like you were saying about the holographic universe, and they actually confirmed that by totally analysing the atom, they found that 99.9% of the atom is nothing but empty space, which then confirms, they say, technically that means the universe is holographic. That we can touch a wall, I can touch a hammer, and the only reason that my hand's not going through it is that the particles that are the hammer are vibrating at the same frequency as the particles on my hand, so therefore we're bashing against each other, and technically when you look down, we're not even touching. There's still a field of energy from one to the other, but the fact is that is nothing but holographic. It just appears to be solid, just like I appear to be solid.
And that's why I like battlefields where there's still ghostly images, because it's a holograph. The size of the emotional impact on a field. That's why places like Hawaii are really haunted, is because there's been so many battles there. Extreme emotion can imprint the holographic field. Anywhere you go, your energy is there for up to a month after you're gone. There's a holographic imprint of you anywhere you go for up to a month after you've been there. So if you have, the emotional charge that you're going to have of being a shitload of people standing in a line, getting ready to run at each other and try and hack each other to bits, that's going to be a shitload of emotional energy. That's going to be a shitload of emotional charge there. So it's no wonder that, you go to, like, in America, you go to Civil War period battle sites where, the casualties were astronomical. And people can still, people that don't believe in holographic theory, that don't believe in magic, that are very locked into ego and the shadow self and all of those things, are still having these experiences because the impact on the holograph was so strong in that place. I love holographic theory. It's the only theory that can explain stigmata, ghosts, all of that stuff can be explained by the holographic theory.
Now the other thing that runs alongside that, I'll have to bring up on another show, but the other thing that quite recently I was watching something from there's a quantum physicist who was doing who's actually doing a talk show with other, a science chat, and one of them said that in the fabric of the universe, through his studies that he's doing in quantum science, he says that he has found within the fabric of the universe, he has found computer code. And the other scientist says, oh, you mean like computer code? He says, no, I've found computer code, and you can see the guy's head going, oh, whoa, let's. You're saying that there are ones and zeros within the fabric, and then he says, no, not just ones and zeros, but it's special sort of code that was actually created in, I think it was the 40s. That was this quantum theory code to try to understand the language of the universe. So not only is it a hologram, but within the fabric, within quantum physics, within the fabric of the universe, there is computer code. There is literally ones and zeros. It might not be green, but it's literally ones and zeros like the Matrix running through the fabric of the universe.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic that eventually it's like we always stumble on, if humans aren't paying attention, we always stumble on the truths accidentally, like clockwise and counterclockwise. There's a reason that there's clockwise and counterclockwise, and that we associate things with that. You know, there's a reason why we come up with ideas that are remarkably similar to things that the universe has done. You know, because it's all the information's there. We just gotta figure out how to assimilate it and use it. You know, like crystals. You know, the crystal skulls are. Science has just discovered that you can store memory in crystals like a computer chip. You know, this is what the crystal skulls are. This is their supercomputers. That's what it's there for. So like science, I'm really getting sick of science has just discovered something that the shamanic people have been saying since the beginning of time to be true. Ooh. You know?
Well, this happened back in again my memory's going to fail me a little bit, but you've obviously got the I'm pretty sure it's the Carillion camera, which takes the picture of the auras. Now, back around about 10-15 years ago, because obviously that was in Russia. I'm pretty sure that the guy who created that was Russian.
Russia, that's some cool shit, man.
Well, about 15 years ago, there was another set of Russian scientists that actually created a camera that was actually seeing energy channels within the body. So we're seeing these lines running through. Now, they called it biometric energy reader, and these were biometric channels. But one of the funniest things for me was that at this big conference that they did with all these scientists, and they invited all over the world, that the Chinese party came with a bunch of Chinese doctors, and they were saying, "Oh yes, we found these channels," and they were showing where the channels were, and they're pointing, literally running down the body in like lines, and is that these basically worked within the quantum field in essence. Funny enough, a little bit like ley lines of the planet. But what happened is that there was some Chinese doctors there, and they basically opened up a folder and said, "You mean like this?" And they showed pictures of the meridians, which they discovered 3,000 plus years ago. You know, it's like you're catching up then. You know, science is catching up. And this has been this thing with obviously with quantum physics and modern day science, is that there are these new as such discoveries and new awakenings at least. And one of the things, when people sort of say, "Oh, I don't believe this," or "I don't believe that," or "I don't believe in hands healing," or this, that, I say, well, one of the obvious ones, 200 years ago, science said that the Earth is the center of the galaxy, the center of the center of everything, and everything else rotates around it. It also, originally, science was saying the world is flat, has to be flat. Now, one of the other ones...
Don't sail off the edge.
Indeed. Now, one of the other ones that not as many people sort of know nowadays is that it's around about 200 years ago, is that they said that man could never go faster than the speed of a horse because he would internally combust. And their logic...
insane too, if you go too fast. That was another one originally when they were doing like the tests with rockets attached to cars on the salt flats. Is if you go over like 100 miles an hour, you're supposed to go clinically insane, become a raving madman.
Yeah, and this is the point: is that science is no different to us. It will perceive what it perceives until it expands its consciousness. Until there's a great philosopher, psychiatrist, can't remember his name at the moment, but he talks about expanding consciousness. Is that the bigger your perception, or the bigger your consciousness expands, the more your perception grows, the more information you can receive. So it's this thing, and for me, like this whole thing of the Tao, the word Tao means the way, the balance, the path, but it's this point of, it's not set. It's not something that's, the universe is, for starters, is not opposing opposites. It's complementary opposites. We don't go night, boom, day. We go from one into the other. You don't go happy, boom, sad. There's a phase. Now, sometimes it could be very quick. Sometimes it could be far more subtle and very long. But it's a phase from one into the other. We flow from the yin into the yang. Now, and the whole point is that you have this flow, but the more you expand, the more you grow, the more you can take in, the more you can absorb. So learning new, the Taoist, one of the Taoist sayings is to be like a child and have fun, or have fun and explore the world like a child, but take responsibility like an adult. So, is that you never give up your childlike way of having fun to be silly and to do things. With me, I'll say random things, or say silly things to make people laugh, but because it's to not take. One of my favorite Taoist sayings is, "What do I know?" As in, like, I can do a whole philosophical thing, and at the end, but hey, what do I know? And the point of that, is a little bit like me having a serious conversation and going, ha ha ha, it's the hit yourself with a hammer. Make people realise, don't take yourself or anything else too seriously. It's all information, it's all fun. But remember, it's all fun. Don't, because people have a tendency, or sort of, you and I did a show with Kira, and saying about the ego and the ego in intuition, and it's that the ego, don't get too caught up in your own legend. Like the MythGear. The MythGear is to create your legend, but you can move from one thing to another. You don't have to be static, and you shouldn't be static. Life isn't static. The universe isn't static. Why the heck are you?
Look at everything static in the world. Look at how well it works out for us. We frantically spend all of this time trying to rebuild roads because that's something that's static. And Mother Nature's always trying to change. I mean, there's nothing in our existence. I've been thinking, this is one I was thinking, really got into for a while, 6 months ago or something about that, is what is a museum? A museum is a testament to the past. Really, all we're doing is glorifying something that's probably an outdated mode of technology. I mean, look at, like, you go and you look at Stone Age weapons. Our weapons are so much better than that. Our tools. Let's leave weapons out of this. The tools. Look at Stone Age tools. Dig a hole. Compare, 500 years ago, dig a hole. Now dig a hole. You got a power tool to do it for you. I just did it a couple weeks ago to help somebody build a fence. It was awesome. It was a lot better than a postal digger. Gas-powered postal digger, man. So we glorify the past because it just represents our ego. We spend all of this time, most of the ant colony that is humanity spends its time running around fixing roads, keeping branches off of them, doing all sorts of little things to try and keep their lawn looking the same, try to keep their car looking the same, try to keep themselves looking forever young. I mean, there's a lot of things that are responsible for this, like our society, at least Western society that I live in. We don't like death. Someone dies, we put them in a black bag and we take them away and we put them in a special building that nobody else can go into. In Tibet, monks meditate in the morgue all the time, is my understanding. Like the high levels of the high levels of monks who are spend their long periods of time meditating in their lives. Go and meditate with corpses, because that is just as inevitable of a situation as anything else in life. Life is sexually transmitted and always fatal. consistently.
Indeed.
So that,
It's cool.
we're so afraid of death. You know, we're so afraid of that loss, because then something has changed and it's not the same anymore, and we really don't like that. We're really not trained to deal with that. But then, as a consumer-based society, if you have, you know, unless you're going for Egypt, you know, where you can take your shit with you when you die, the consumer-based society and spiritualism really don't work that well together.
Well, the funny thing in China, with flicking the microphone off, the funny thing in China is that when the body dies, there is a death walker, a person who takes the soul, who walks from where that person died. It still happens now, but back in, you know, back 100 years ago. Oh, microphone really does want to be in my ear. A couple hundred years ago, what they did is that a walker would walk from where the person died back to where the family lives, where the family actually lives. They would walk the journey. They would go back to the origin, and they would have a flag, and this flag would say that basically the souls of these people are walking behind, and then this person would travel. So say say, you know, it is like, you know, they were 40 miles away from where their ancestors are, their ancestors' temple is. So where they died, there's, you know, 40 miles away. There would be a walker who would walk that journey, would go all the way to their ancestral village, where their ancestors' temple is, and they're actually, and they're still there today. There's actually hotels which look like they'd have a hotel, and it would have lots and lots of rooms which were actually like broom closets. You know, a little tiny room, and the walker would stay in the hotel and would open up and allow the dead soul to sleep, because they stood up, they slept upwards, and they would sleep in the room, and then the next day he would let them all out, and they would carry on their journey. And there's this thing in the Chinese philosophy, in the Chinese theory, is that is, I always find it quite funny, is that the way the ghosts, the way the spirits move in the afterlife, is that they hop. They don't actually float or walk. They actually hop. So they go boom, boom, boom. So there's this feeling of like this walker would walk, and there would be all these ghosts hopping along in a line. And yeah, they even have, like I say, they even have hotels for the dead. That they would stay there for the night.
That's one thing I've always loved about like China and the level of spirituality and how it manifests in the world. You know, because living in the Western world, where the most spiritual thing that you see is like a church. You know, that's the best thing you're gonna see, or something like that. But to have a culture that's actually based on that, like, you know, a culture that I've seen some documentaries on certain parts of China where they still rely on the swallows to tell them what time of year to plant their crops. You know, when the swallows come back, you know, they'll be back within a couple-week time period, and they use that to determine when they should start their crops, because they have such a symbiotic relationship with nature. You know, just to see that sort of thing in comparison to like what you see in Western.
Well, there's this thing in China. There are obviously, Christianity has been there for about 100 years, around about at least 100 years, Christianity, or maybe a bit more than that. But the three main philosophies, they would use the word philosophy more than religion. But the three main philosophies in China are Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. And what it was like said a lot is that Taoism was the philosophy of your day-to-day living, of you know, going with the flow with things and learning to adapt. Buddhism was about being heartfelt, was learning about your emotions and caring for people. China is very much a society where they very much believe in the family. You know, you know, there's all the big thing about the ancestors. You know, like your ancestral. The ancestral temple is where you can still communicate with the dead, where they're still there. And Confucius was very much about order. So society, the city, where you lived was organised under Confucius rule. You know, it's very set, very much like you know, the macro of the universe. You know, Newton law. You know, theory. Everything it has its own set. You know, it's set. The way you treat people is very much of the Buddha, is about very much of the compassion and love. And then the day-to-day is very much the quantum physics, the Tao, very much this chaos, you know, things can flow, things can change, and learning to adapt and learning to go according to nature, like you're saying, like watching nature to when to plant seeds, when to do things. And their whole set, you know, is like one of the things with that is that in the Chinese culture, very much from the beginning, you normally had one doctor who would either go from village to village or he'd be in one village. But the way, you know, and if it was the barefoot doctor is a metaphor, you know, of somebody who's open. Being the barefoot is they use different skills to heal a person. But one of the biggest things about the barefoot doctors in general, and even now in a lot of the villages they still do it, you pay the doctor a small amount of money every week for being healthy. So you see him once or twice a week, and you stick your tongue out. He looks at your body, checks your pulses, because in Chinese medical theory there's more than one pulse. He'll look at your body, he'll check to see there's no imbalances building up, and if there is, he'll tell you to go to. They have medicine cafes or restaurants where a doctor will look at you and he will give you the food that you need to rebalance you. Yeah. It's a big thing out there in China. In fact, one of the biggest ones, he's died now, but he was like, they call him the Chinese national treasure, was, you know, and the big thing of these restaurants where food is medicine, and you'll have a doctor there, and he'll go, it's this, and this, tells the chef, and the chef goes, oh, you need this. So because the medical way of seeing it is that different, your body works on 3 energies, Qi, Jing, and Shen, and then it works on the 5 elements, and the 5 elements are phases. You know, like, well, the 5 elements are earth, fire, water, wood, and metal, but that's a metaphor. It's a phase rather than the actual element itself. So those elements have different organs, they have different sounds, they have different feelings. But going back to... Go.
Oh, I was just adding, and different seasons, the way that I was...
Yeah.
From my Qigong Sifu, it was very much... She very much related it to the yin-yang and the cycle of the summer... Yeah. The midsummer, the fall, the winter, the spring, the summer, and that undulating.
Well, there's a thing there that, there's a thing there that certain people, you know, because there's 5 elements. The fifth, what they call is midsummer or Indian summer is another term, and people say, oh, that's not a season, but it's basically the hottest part of the summer. What would be fire would be, you know, that is the 5th season of sorts. Is the wherever your hottest part of your summer is, that would be that part of the season. But quickly going back to the whole point is that yes, you paid your doctor a small amount every single week. He would see you once or twice a week for no more than 5 minutes, and as soon as you were ill, if you got a cold, a flu, as soon as you were ill, you stopped paying him, because he wasn't doing his job. And that was the biggest thing, is that the whole mindset is that a doctor's whole purpose is to keep you healthy. So it was holistic. It's not in modern day we sort of say, where does it hurt? You know, not let me look at you, let me figure out what the cause is. We ask you where is the effect? Cause and effect. We're only nowadays we tend to look more of the effects, where the pain is, where do you hurt, rather than why you're actually being ill in the first place. What's actually causing it? So the Eastern point of view, the original doctors were that they got paid weekly for you being healthy. As soon as you were ill, they didn't get paid. One of the other things, reason why when you look at the whole Chinese stuff, you see people either doing Qigong or Tai Chi or even dancing, you can see them dancing or running, is that parts of for their national health, because in England we have like national health. I know you guys in America, you sort of, it's more, you have certain places where you can, you know, get it, but more you have to pay for it, don't you?
Mostly, yeah. If it all kind of depends. If you're super poor, you can get insurance for really cheap, but if you make too much money, you got to pay for it. Right. Really, it all goes back to that whole thing of, because they treat the symptoms and not the cause.
Yeah.
They're not really interested in healing. They're just interested in making a buck. So this is the best way to make a buck.
Mm. And that's the thing. The other thing they do in China is to get your national health out there. So if you are ill, to guarantee that you get it as quickly and efficiently as possible, they insist that it's a sort of law. It's me and my old friend Terry used to call it the Mrs. Miggins law. Is that you have to do half an hour exercise every single day. It can be Tai Chi, it can be dance, or it can even be like, you know, going to the gym. But if if Mrs. Miggins, or the Chinese version of Mrs. Miggins, sort of says, that, you know, you haven't been doing your exercises, then you're penalised by you have to wait a bit longer. You have to go onto a longer waiting list. So it encourages people to actually do exercise. Where, I don't know about in America, but definitely in England, we suggest you do half an hour exercise every day. We suggest you eat 5 fruit or veg every day. In China, it's more of a, if you don't do it, this is going to happen. You're not going to die, but you will have to wait longer. You're penalised for. So it's, you know, it's like saying, well, Jimmy, you were a naughty boy earlier. That just means that you've only got 5 minutes on the computer today instead of half an hour, or, you know, so you're penalised for being naughty, but when you're good, you're praised, and you know, that's another philosophy of the whole point of, rather than berating people for doing things wrong, we should spend more energy actually praising them when they do things right, and just not giving them energy when they do things wrong. And that would encourage people more to do things the other way.
Oh, absolutely. It creates a better society. I was just reading about how ravens do that. If there's a group of ravens and one raven takes more than his fair share, he will be kicked out of the group because the group can't trust him to take care of each other.
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
You know, going back to their version of things, that's how Mother Nature works. You know, you put in your 50% of the work. I love spiders. Spiders to me are the perfect fishermen of Tao, because they put in their half of the work. They find the flow of Tao. They build a web. They're doing their work for the manifestation, and then they sit and wait. And no matter what happens, they wait patiently for Tao to bring them the sustenance that they need, because they know that they put in their half of the work. They did their part of the process. And then they have faith that the universe will. It's like, there's a holistic healer who's based in California who I really enjoy. His name's Paul Check. Amazing, amazing man. And he says, do the Grand Canyon test with your desires. So you walk up and you yell out as loud as you can. It's like if you want to be healthy, instead of saying someday I will be healthy, you yell someday I will be healthy to the universe. The universe is going to yell back someday you will be healthy. So someday you'll be healthy. That's great. But if you want to be healthy now, I am healing now. I am becoming more powerful now. Not throwing it out there to some other place. So the spider perfectly embodies that to me. That's part of spider's great medicine, is that it creates its own world within the world of Tao. It sifts Tao. Everything is allowed to come through. Some things cause so much turmoil in the spider's world that the spider has to rebuild. But the spider will rebuild because it is sifting Tao, and it knows that as long as it's in alignment with Tao, it's good. It's taken care of.
And also the fact with certain spiders, or you see the baby spiders, and they shoot out the web, and then they hook up themselves on, and they're floating through the air on their web, hooking on to the next thing. Not like Spider-Man shooting it out and attaching it and swinging across. But that's why sometimes you feel a web go across your face because there was a spider somewhere there shooting the web, and then they hang on and they literally float through the air on the web until it attaches to something else, letting go and going with the flow. I mean, how cool is that? Yeah, very much. The spider is showing the essence of the Tao itself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. The greatest sifters of Tao.
Indeed, spiders. So, funny enough, there isn't a spider. I was just trying to think if there's a spider kung fu. Even if there's a spider
would be epic. Spider kung fu. Oh my god.
So
there is. I want
that'd be an interesting look. I have to Google it. I have to find out because I know Scorpion. I know one of my favourites is Drunken. I do Drunken Qigong and Drunken Kung Fu, and then there's Drunken Dragon as well. They're very cool. But yeah, Spider is that I know there's a few meditations about spider energy and spiders, but no, I suddenly thought, is there actually a spider qigong? And I don't actually know the answer to it. So that's something I'll have to look up and Google and see if we can find out. That'd be a cool one to know.
I would love to know spider qigong. That would be fantastic.
Indeed. So yeah, I think we have darted across from here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I think as one of my friends calls it, it's a spiritual drunk driving conversation, because one minute you'll be talking about this, the next minute you're talking about this thing over here, and you're just swerving all over the road of conversation.
I do that a lot. I must admit, it's very much it's what in essence it's what boggy means. Boggy is basically the balance between chaos and calmness. Is in essence it's said to be a Korean word. Boggy is the way of saying it. So it's a bit more oomph than most people normally use. But the whole point is the chaos and the calmness is you have some things are in order and some things, a bit like the spider. You create the web. But then you just let things be. You just let go with the flow, and you adapt.
The wise
and
fool.
I find, I find it interesting because most people struggle with me because of the way my mind thinks. I can zip in and out of so many different subjects all at once. But I always find it quite fun. I can be ordered when I need to be, but I like going with the flow. That's why I like so many different subjects. That's the whole point. I love spirituality. I love science. I love philosophy. I especially love Eastern philosophy. For me, there's this. I think it's this thing with the West is that the West is very much about things being in boxes. They like things set, don't they? We have, and that's why we're struggling. We said this in this conversation and other conversations is that. People in the West have people in the world, in some places in China now, we're city-based. They are doing the same thing. We've got used to this thing of putting things in boxes and having things set. And I think part of this shift of consciousness, part of this, the paradigm shift, the golden realm, the golden age, whatever you want to call it, is this waking up to more than one thing, knowing that, you know, there are many ways to explore, there are many things to do. It's okay to have different sides. At least that's my, you know, for me, that's very much of, you know, is the, well, you know, going back almost in full circle, back to the MythGear, is, you know, the fact of the stuff you're making for me. You know, there will be the very, you know, we've talked about doing ones with the 5 elements, so it's, you know, set colours. But then I've also said about doing the multicoloured one, and you know, going totally out there and doing something totally you know, like different. So
it's the wise fool archetype. It's my favorite archetype. It's the coyote archetype. Generally, the trickster archetype is they're the wise fool. You know, they're brilliant, but as a result of that brilliance, to be balanced, you have to have the fool to balance out the wisdom. Otherwise, you end up being the story. When I used to do martial arts, the story I always heard was about Bodhidharma or the Monkey King, depending on what version of it, where, you know, he goes to the king. He comes from India with the 18 hands of Lohan. And he comes to the king and he says, you know, I have this style that I would like to teach you. The king goes, I don't need your style. So he goes and he finds the Shaolin monks, and the Shaolin monks at that point were so scholarly that their bodies were basically becoming useless to them. And they were sore because they spent so much time sitting and weren't active enough. And then he taught them the 18 hands of Lohan. Balance was achieved, and holy shit. You know, look at the Shaolin monks now.
Indeed. Indeed, yeah, that's the point. And you know, there are places you can still find it, but it's this blend of, you know, of sides. You know, the martial side. You know, with the Chinese arts especially, there is this very much the 3 ones or the 3 M's in Qigong and the Kung Fu's. They talk very much about the 3 M's: martial art, meditational art, medical art. So, you know, the whole point within that, so the martial is fighting, but it's also fitness. It's about fitness. It's about the physical side. The medical side is the emotions. So martial is the little chi, is physical vitality. The martial side, so it's martial and fitness. The emotions is the medical, it's the healing of everything, mind, body, and spirit, but it's also the emotions as well, so that's more the Jing. And then the Shen is the meditational. The meditation is the focus, the Yi, the intent, learning to, you know, focus on things. And all 3 have to be balanced, or you need all 3. Hence why in Chinese society you have this thing of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. You know, is that you actually have Taoist temples in China, in the cities and elsewhere, that are actually run by Buddhists. You'll actually find the Buddhist monks looking after these Taoist temples, because that's considered normal. That's what they do. You know, most of the Taoists are off wandering about somewhere. So the Buddhists do what they do best, and they look after and they maintain, and they, you know, keep it going, keep it alive. And then, but they also, you know, the money, you know, when you walk through the door, the admission, that's, you know, the order, the paying for stuff for the times it's open, that is Confucius law. You know, it's run by Confucius. So you have a Taoist temple with a Buddhist looking after it, run by, you know, and all the paying system would be of, you know, a Confucius system. It's how things work. This 3 M's: the mind, body, and spirit. So it's this thing.
It works.
Yeah. And it does, but it's this thing of, there is, instead of them being separate, they're blended. You go from one to the other, you know. And I think what's happened in our society is we've just got too hooked on this one thing, or too hooked on things being this or that, one or the other. and we've lost that. You know, the universe doesn't work in opposing opposites. The universe works in complementary opposites. It phases from one thing to the other, phases from night to day, and it phases through the seasons. And even within those seasons, sometimes they can flip overnight, but then they'll go back. Oh, but they phase. You know, it is this phase, this moving from one to the other. And I think that's, you know, what we need to get back into, what we need to find again, this balance of these phases, these different energies and these different elements. And again, full circle again, go back to what you're creating for me is these clothes that will highlight this, that will show this. That's why I think what you do is so cool and awesome. And that's one of his as well there.
I'm gonna do the heart. You know, they added the new Facebook thing.
Yeah.
The frowny face. I'm not doing the frowny face. Not going there.
No.
But I'm gonna do the heart. So that way you can heart stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think you should do one on the iPad or the iPhone. They've got the tongue sticking out with the one eye. You know.
Oh yeah,
that might be a cool one.
Some wood boggy masks.
Oh, the boggy masks, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's one of our projects as well.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
For those who don't know, I've always had. I showed this to Ethan, to Q a while ago. Is that I had a face that I've always drawn. Now, a long time ago, I actually used to have curly hair. So at one stage, it had curly hair and a clean chin, and then I really grew my beard. And a little bit like yours, I only had two though. It separated into two little horns, and so the boggy face would be what I'd put into letters and birthday cards and Christmas cards. It was my insignia. And so we've talked about making it actually a little sign, so that will be fun for future.
Totally, it'll be a blast.
Indeed, cool. Right, let's have a look. So I'll just have a look how long we've been. So it's about an hour. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Is there anything?
There's 1,000 things I could talk about, but nothing that I specifically remembered.
Cool. Well, what we do, as this is a recorded session, is that maybe, hopefully, at the time when we play it live, you'll actually be around and about, so we can then ask the audience to, you know, if there's anything that they've heard during the interview, if they'd like to ask any questions, then please do so. So. For now, we'll close it off for now, and we'll say thank you very much, Ethan, for this wonderful chat, and back to me and probably you in the studio, which is here, in the future, whenever that is.
All right, Boggy. Well, it's been great, man. Thanks for having me. I look forward to chatting with you soon, and as always, a pleasure.
So cool. So. To the audience, take care and bye for now.
Bye.